I want to start. If we could have somebody who is on Zoom, just confirm that you can hear the audio okay?
I can hear you.
I can hear you.
Yep.
Great, thank you. And my next reminder will be for those on Zoom, if you could mute yourself just to minimize the background and raise your hand when it gets to the Q&A, and then unmute yourself. So thank you for participating. It is really nice to have such great participation both here in person and online. So it's nice to see everybody. Today, we're going to spend a little bit of time doing a brief presentation and then spend a lot of time making sure that we can have a community conversation, answer questions. I want to start by thanking the Volunteer Municipal Building Project Committee. They were formed at the Select Board's request in 2021 and have spent a tremendous amount of time over the past 3 years working to understand what the issues were, what are the problems that we're trying to solve, evaluating a variety of different solutions that brought us to the recommendations that you're going to hear about today. Ultimately, it is a 3-part project, but they are interconnected because the way the solutions are using spaces. Today, we're holding an information meeting because there is a special town meeting next Wednesday here at 6 o'clock asking for a vote to appropriate additional funds for this project. Why are we here now in a special meeting? Well, we had the project that we voted on in the past was based on our best known estimates for the project cost. So we've raised private and public funds so far based on that estimate. As part of the building process, it went out to bid, and we now have received a guaranteed maximum price. Now you'll hear a lot of details about that, but basically once we have the guaranteed maximum price in hand, the clock starts ticking, and that guaranteed maximum price will expire at the end of this month. So we're bringing this forward now because we need to have a thoughtful community conversation before that deadline to understand the community's interests and questions in how we best move forward together. I know one of the major questions that we've heard as part of this process has been about all of the damaged infrastructure, particularly that the winter storms have done this year. And the Select Board definitely recognizes that that is a huge challenge, and it is part of what is included in our town budget that you will hear a lot about at our regular town meeting. I'm happy to try to answer some questions about that today if it's helpful. And I know that it is unfortunate that we have to do the municipal building project in a special town meeting and not so that you can't see, so the picture is not all together, but that is the reason for the timing. There has been a tremendous amount of work, thought, and private fundraising that has gone into this process so far. I am excited to have you all hear about it today. The project deserves plenty of informed and respectful discussion among the community, and that's why we are all here today. And I'm now going to turn it over to Pete Anderson, who's going to start the presentation with a little bit about the need for each of the aspects of the municipal building project.
I mean, I don't know if it's better or worse.
Please let me know if you can't hear me. I've got a bit of a sore throat. Public Safety Director Fred Porter and Fire Chief Mark Durkee have long advocated for a building to house a fire truck and an ambulance above the Narrows. We have an increasing number of residents who are living more than 5 miles from the fire station, and access to emergency services is becoming even more of a problem due to storms closing the road at the Narrows. Also, many of the public safety volunteers live above the Narrows. If there's an emergency at the north end of the aisle island. They must travel down to the municipal building or an ambulance or a fire truck and then drive back up island. This significantly increases response times, and up island garage will help solve these problems. Next we have, why does the health center need a new building, with Christine Rock?
For those of you who don't know me, I'm a physician, I'm a family doctor. I have owned property on Islesville for 47 years. I have been part-time resident for about 12 years and full-time for the last 3. I would have been working with the architects and with the health center personnel on the design of the new building. I'm also Michael Hutcherson's mother. The health center has some serious deficiencies. It was originally a grocery store building, it was a fine grocery store building, but it has inadequate ventilation. It has serious lack of privacy. There's no soundproofing in the rooms. There's a lack of treatment space, which is a very big issue. Mental health providers have to be off-site, and their jury rig locations are not private or soundproofed. There are only 2 exam rooms in the present health center, which puts providers seeing patients in their cars or in the containers when those 2 are full. Blood draws have to be done in the kitchen space or in the container. Urine samples and blood samples in the kitchen and kitchen food are in the same small counter space. And there's a lack of storage space. Stuff should not be stuffed underneath sinks or stored in office areas. Ambulance transfers can happen in rain and snow without any cover over. So there's your granny being loaded into the ambulance and being snowed on her way. We have also increasing numbers of Islesboro residents who are choosing to receive their primary care at the health center. The population of the island, as I think everyone knows, is increasing. The present health center does not meet state inspection codes for medical centers. This worries me when the next inspection comes. Recruiting any new high quality providers is going to be extremely difficult in the present building. There's a lot of competition for good, competent providers. A new health center building will provide covered ambulance access, 4 treatment rooms and more critical care space for ultrasound imaging, which is a more modern way of imaging than X-ray, and can be carried to the point of care. There will be designated lab space for increased, less expensive on-site laboratory blood tests. There will be secure pharmacy space and soundproof mental health space with individual private access. When you live in a community, you have to decide whether or not to take up your share of responsibility for the health and safety of that community. I have to leave this up to your individual consciences.
You want to?
Here we see a series of video clips to illustrate the shortcomings. The key word here, the shortcomings of the current health center space. In this first clip, we see Janet as a patient exiting the exam room. She enters the reception area and is ready to check out.
One of the main issues is the lack of privacy. The area that's used at Rhonda's desk to check in and check out is the same. So oftentimes you'll have people checking in, walking through as Odessa escorts them into the exam room. And the person at the desk is discussing insurance information, sometimes cost of medications and so forth. There's not a lot of room and also not a lot of privacy.
Now, as Pam is being brought into the exam room, I wanted to just highlight something here. To the left, there are 2 provider offices, which are also used as storage. And you will see here, the hallway is also used for storage and the Xerox machine. Now, this is an important frame. Dorian Owen, would you like to talk about this?
And the hallway is as you can see right here, it's used as a meeting area for staff. The patient has to walk through there. It's a thoroughfare.
In this next clip, we've got an unscheduled urgent medical situation. Now, remember, Pam is in that exam room. So she's going to go back and visit with Pam and say, whoops, sorry, we've got someone who really needs to be seen now. So what happens is the patient is relocated to the laboratory, which is also the staff kitchen and break room.
Okay, so there's a lot to go through. I'll do my best. It's much more challenging if you're in the middle of a dressing change or a procedure to ask that person to relocate. Somebody that's up, elderly, has difficulty walking, if it's a mother of children. So Pam is now sitting in what used to be the blood draw chair. And to her right is the refrigerator with very sensitive supplies such as vaccines, sometimes specimens. Oftentimes there's specimens on the counter such as urine specimens, there's blood tubes that may be being spun. So as you can see on the left side of that screen, there's an orange piece of tape. That denotes the dirty area to the right, and then to the left is our kitchen. We use the refrigerator on the left to store our food, lunch, ice packs in the freezer.
The thing about that is that room is the opposite of childhood, so we're not able to see, small children.
This is what's referred to as the trauma room. We have a dummy in place here, functioning as a patient with a serious leg laceration. This room has a great deal of equipment that are needed to manage medical emergencies.
Sure, this is this room also functions as a storage room for supplies, and frequently whoever's being seen in this room gets interrupted because the other provider has to go and get supplies. And the other part of it is that we have a lot of equipment that's, for lack of a better word, it's scary. So this is the sink in the treatment room. On the right has an ultrasonic cleaner for instruments, and it's filled with chemicals. And on the left side of that screen is our autoclave and pressure cooker, which really should not be in an exam room.
And the area around the sink is where we put instruments after we've used them. We rinse them, if obviously they're soiled with blood and so forth. But also the eye wash station is there. So it's just really not appropriate.
And this is a really fun shot here. Somebody want to talk about this?
This is a pharmacy / storage. They get the important equipment everywhere in this room, so it does. This is a pretty common thing for her to climb up and lift something, and there's not really enough room in there for a ladder.
There should be special ventilation, if you're reconstituting antibiotics or other medications, ventilation is terrible. Also, you'll have 2 providers at once dispensing prescriptions. It's very small.
Hello then. Next, I want to talk briefly about why does the Public Safety Department need more space in the municipal building? The municipal building facilities are increasingly inadequate to the demands of the Public Safety Department. Public Safety Director Fred Porter runs the ambulance, emergency management, and law enforcement groups from an office the size of a closet, alongside his assistant, Kerry Reed. And we've all heard that Fire Chief Mert Durkee's office used to be the cooler for the grocery store. The current training room is simply too small to accommodate the needed training equipment and classes for the 25 or so volunteers who provide invaluable service to EMS and the fire department. The public safety staff handle their many responsibilities extraordinarily well in their cramped quarters. In order to maintain this vital service, it provides that is provided for our island. The department needs more space. And I'll turn it back to Pete to talk about what we are building, what will the total construction cost be, and why must we pass the $866,000 bond?
I was not able to attend the previous info meeting, but I was watching online. There was definitely some confusion around what we have the money and how we are allocating it. Let me state clearly that we are moving forward with building the Up Island Garage, the health center, and the public safety renovations. And if we pass this bond next week, we will have money for all three projects in hand. In the past few months, the construction manager, Ledwood Construction, put the Up Island Garage and the health center building out to bid. The health center was the only item that we received an acceptable price for, and we want to accept this guaranteed maximum price before it expires April 27th. Until 3 weeks ago, we planned to build the Up Island Garage with Ledwood Construction, but we did not get an acceptable bid for the Up Island Garage. We agreed with our design team that the price for the garage was not a good value for the town. And we also agreed that we can get a building that is worth our $432,000 investment if we put it out to bid with a different contractor. So we will be starting work immediately to put the Up Island Garage out to bid separately. If we vote yes for the bond next week, we will have money ready for the garage construction. We are also holding the $100,000 ready for public safety renovations in the municipal building after the health center has moved to its new building. We remain dedicated to the successful completion of all three projects. To cover the cost, Islesboro voters approved a $1.7 million bond in 2022. We have since raised $1.85 million from private donations, which is more than our goal of matching donations with taxpayer contributions in a 50-50 split. Now we are asking for a final $866,000 bond to get our total funds to the amount we need. If we vote yes for this bond, all three parts of the project will move forward. Additionally, we will receive a federal grant that matches this final bond request, thanks to the support of Senator Collins. This grant will pay for medical equipment, energy equipment, and furniture. Because the grant will pay for the health center solar panels, we are able to reduce this bond request by over $200,000. Lauren?
How will this bond affect your taxes? It's important to note that almost 90% of the cost of this project will be covered by seasonal homes, land properties, donations, and grants. Year-round homes will provide only 10% of the total cost of this project. For the typical year-round home, which is 1 out of 2 homes on the island, the share of this bond will be less than $30 per year, or the current price of a summer ferry ticket. For 75% of year-round homes, the vast majority of homes, their share will be less than $40 per year. If you want more information on how the bond will affect your taxes, we'll have a handout after this meeting, and you can speak with me, or better, Pressica, if you have any questions. And now to Shay.
All right, so last, before we open it up to questions, I just want to cover a little bit about what happens if we vote no next Wednesday. If the voters do not approve the bonds, none of the 3 projects will move forward. We will have to return the private donations that have been raised so far, the 1.85, and the $845,000 federal grant. So already we would lose 2.7 million that we have already raised, and a little bit of an aside, that CDS grant that we received from Collins and King's office, the Congressional Delegation Grant, is a huge deal, particularly with all of the infrastructure funds that we are hoping to get to make our coastal resilience stronger. We need a strong working relationship with our state and federal funders, and so to me, it would be really detrimental to those relationships to have to say, thank you for your support, but I'm sorry, we need to return the funds. And to date, we have, to get us to this point, we've incurred $350,000 in fees and expenses. That is something that we will have to pay out of the bond. We'll have to take out a bond that has already been approved by the town. So we just wanted to be transparent about those items. And now we're going to stop talking and ask for folks who have any questions, comments. We do have another microphone here, so I'm happy to work on passing it around. You actually might for the Zoom folks, just to, sorry.
So people were talking about the guaranteed maximum price for the health center. What is that number?
Can you go back to the slide?
Yeah, I'm getting there. I'm sorry. Here we go.
Oh. That 3.378. 990.
So that's what the contractor is guaranteed.
Correct.
Okay.
And the guaranteed maximum price means it will not exceed that price. If it goes over that, the contractor eats the price. If it goes under, that money comes back to us and savings in our pocket.
How does that work with the building contract?
The question is, how does that work with the building contract? So the subcontractors who are subcontracting with Ledgewood, I think is your question.
Well, to sign a contract for building the building?
Somebody from the committee turn this over.
So there is specific language in the contract with Ledgewood Construction that this is a guaranteed maximum price. Anything that they could find for savings for us returns to us. You got that in your contract, Mike?
I'm Bob Koshan, my wife April, when I moved down, we bought the house a year ago, so year round. So a lot of questions I have probably been answered by others. I apologize for not knowing.
Comfortably close here.
I'm an engineer, a forensic engineer, so I come from a different thinking pattern than many. My question is, at $3.8 million, and it's guaranteed apparently not to exceed, what did you have to strip out of the building to get there? And comparatively, what was the number previous? Because this number has been raised, that I understand. So, and we don't need specifics, but is it 5% more now than it was? Is it 12% more? Is it 100% more? Do we have any idea? And my concern is, from a business point of view, prices never go down, especially working in the island. And it's nice to have a guarantee, but do we really know, are we getting a bond from the contractor that says, we guarantee that we won't go upside down? Okay? And how do we know that building's going to get completed? I don't know this company. He may be an international organization, but have we vetted this guy?
One of our reasons for going with Lakewood Construction is that they have been in business for, I think it's over 50 years now. They are the company that did the renovations to this school. They are well aware of working on the island, and they're comfortable working on the island, and I believe they're gonna do the best job for us of any of the others that we found.
What was the next closest bid, if I may ask?
It was about 3,800 for a previous design. So we're talking about a 10% or slightly more difference.
By reducing?
Yeah, we reduced the cost by at least 10%. Sorry.
We have all the same infrastructure in the building that we originally had. We have redesigned it to move it away from some slopes that were causing problems for the engineers, and we've put on a flat roof on some of the buildings. It's not flat, but it's got a small pitch to it. And that, a number of things that came together to reduce their price.
Thank you.
Do you guys have the handouts available from the last info meeting that we had? That might help answer some of like Mr. Bob's questions and stuff.
Thank
The packet that was there.
Apparently not.
Bob, I bet I could make that available for you at the town office. If you wanted to go by the last info meeting, there was a handful that shows what they previously had versus what they're offering now. That might help you with that.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Jen. I live up island, and I think all of these projects are worthwhile. But what I've heard from you is that there's no definitive plan for the up island garage right now. So as a resident of island who's been cut off 3 times so far this year to the southern part of the island, based on weather, I'd love to see the up island garage take a bigger priority.
Once we get through this next vote on the 27th, that will be our priority.
What's the time frame? Are they gonna have it concurrently or consecutive? Sorry.
Well, they're not gonna be done by the same construction company, so we probably can't do it concurrently.
Time frame for start and finish, assuming it passes.
I think they're thinking of starting May 1st. The question was, when are they gonna start and how long is it gonna take? I believe they're gonna start May 1st and they've got a 1-year schedule.
I'm gonna, I think Ted had a question and then I see Becky Schnurr's hand is raised. So Becky, you're up next.
So I may have missed this in the first 10 minutes. I was working to pay my double taxes for this year. I just had a question about the Up Island new station. Is that being driven because the inaccessibility across the Narrows? And if so, is it better to think about fixing the Narrows problem first? Or is it driven out of just fear of the having that might occur?
It's because of the Narrows, but also because having safety vehicles nearer to where people are living.
So has there been a historical problem with that? I'm not aware of that.
They actually did talk about this at the very beginning. The response times, given the fact that 90% of your providers live up island, to drive down island to get a vehicle, to then drive back up island, wherever 75% of our year-round residents live, the extended response times, the increased insurance costs, and then the instability with the roadways are all 3 very big factors for it.
And at least once a year, the trees are down across the road cutting off.
Yeah.
Right, so how have we done it over the last 250 years?
Right. So right now,
We can't hear.
When we were kids, the fire department was up island. It was at Jerky's store. That's where the fire trucks were.
Becky, was that, do you have an additional
Yeah,
question?
I do. I'm sorry, I had to interject, but when we were kids, the fire department was at Jerky's store. I mean, that George Jerky was the fire chief. But no, I wanted to just comment because at the beginning of the meeting, one of the deficiencies noted at the health center was the lack of soundproofing. And I've been in the health center and heard the patient in the next exam room, which is not exactly, I mean, it's unfortunate. And so I just, at the very least, that has to be something that is done. So you know, when we're thinking about things we need for the new building, and the reasons we need a new building, that's really key because patient privacy should be primary. And I really shouldn't know who's getting a blood draw.
Thank you, Becky.
I have a couple questions in regards to the Up Island Garage. Last meeting, we asked, do we have the cost of the groundwork? The architects had said that that was the substantial part of the money that was going to be, that was needed for it, and that was what made the cost so high. So I was wondering if we had an estimate of what that is going to be with the septic, the well, and the redone roads.
So going forward, we are not gonna be doing anything to the roads. We're not gonna be doing the septic system. And we're gonna just do a basic garage with heat and a few lights and some overhead doors. And that is it. So
I thought
And
that the
we-
plan that was showed a bathroom, a kid, not a kitchen, but like a kitchenette. That way, if for it was extended circumstances that they were up island, that they had a place that they could wash their hands.
we're gonna run some plumbing in the floor to those areas. So in the future, if we wanna put in a bathroom, we can do that.
Okay, the second question that I have is how did you guys decide that, or excuse me, decide that 432,000 was adequate for the Up Island Garage?
That was a number that was derived from the architects back in the beginning. They put a ballpark figure to each one of these projects. And it was $432,000 based on square footage and the simplicity of it.
That bid came in at 1.5 million.
It did.
Can you explain how we are going to off $1 million from it or are we literally just doing a metal building with, so no heated floor, nothing that is sustainable? For like the ambulance and different things, like if the ambulance is taken out of its hangar now, it has to run 24 hours while it's up island. So I'm just wondering how that offsets.
We did plan for running piping in the floor so that when the time comes that heat pumps are more efficient at running the hydronic floor, it'll be there to be used.
But that's a later on project.
Yes, it is.
Hello, my name is Dylan Purington, and I have a comment that I've been editing because some of the concerns have been answered. And I just want to start off by saying I really appreciate all the work that everyone involved in the project has done. And I really appreciate our first responders. As it is, we have multiple imminent road erosion concerns with more uncertain weather patterns on the horizon. We should save money for these repairs. One concern I have is that a new health center will end up an underutilized facility with people rotating through every couple of years. When I say people, I mean staff, random people. As per the information provided at the last meeting, there are no on-island subcontractors involved in the planning or building of this project, which will add to the already burgeoning daily onslaught of off-island workers, making the island feel even more like a construction zone than it already does, and increasing heavy equipment on the already stressed ferry schedule and road infrastructure. Finally, even as a newer resident, having only lived here since 2008, and having lived north of the Narrows for most of that time, it feels clear to me that an up island garage should be prioritized and the current health center plan reconsidered. I have a couple of questions. How much of the budget specifically is going towards training and further education for current staff?
I don't believe we have any money in the budget for training.
For example, the new space has plans for a dentist's office, which
A better answer for that last question.
Thank you for your question and thank you for your appreciation for all the hard work. About training. At this point, apart from adding an ultrasound machine, which will be paid for by the grant money, training is included for that ultrasound machine, and one of our per diem physician assistants is an expert in using that. So for the health center, there's no extra training that will be needed. We will have extra equipment, but there's no complex equipment that will be used. And while I'm speaking, I could also go back to your first concern about having rotating providers every couple of years and unutilized space. I respectfully disagree with that perception. Owen has been here for 18 years. I've been here for 10 years. Linda has been here for 8 years. And I'm very concerned that the stress in the current facility will actually lead to loss of these long-term providers.
Okay, I think that answers it for me, and thanks for listening to me.
Can we just try to address the two questions that we have from folks on Zoom? Can you talk more about the division of the tax burden? Why is it so uneven between seasonal and year round? Do you want to do it?
Yeah.
Okay, the tax burden is evenly spread along all property taxpayers in the same way that all of our other town budget is spread over the taxpayers. So our overall tax budget is actually about less than 20% paid by year-round residents right now. That's 280 homes. The rest of it is paid by commercial and seasonal. So at least 75% of all of our budget is always paid by seasonal residents. So the reason we see it looks like it's uneven is because it is always uneven, because there's 550 seasonal homes and their typical value is $550,000. The typical value of a year-round home, in other words, half of our year-round homes are about $300,000. So we're always fortunate to have a lower tax burden than most of the seasonal residents, just because of the way their property values are higher. Thank you, Jessica. And the next question from Mary Alderman: where will any new staff live? Can we attract practitioners if there is nowhere to live?
As far as I know, there will not be any new staff planned. We do have, and overnight accommodation attached to the new health center for practitioners.
Hello, I'm Cara Masters Siegman. I've lived here and worked for the town and in private healthcare presently. I have a lot of concerns about just affordability of being able to stay on the island and work on the island. My second concern is this healthcare center is needed. I think the high concerns for it developed in 2021, when all of us were confronting unknown elements from COVID and huge extra burden on the health center, as well as any healthcare practitioner in North America and probably the rest of the world. So a lot of people have been working extra hard since COVID. It's added a lot of extra stressors for many of us. And then at the same time, Mother Nature calls. And I think this is where, as a community, I would love for us all to acknowledge that that call has been even larger than COVID. Our whole island is getting eroded from every edge. Any of us who have a road are having huge extra costs to repair our roads privately. And then I look around the island, repairs that we jumped to make are not holding fast. We cannot just keep filling in our edges of the island. We have unknown road repairs. And then, as we all know, from the Sea Level Rise Committee, enormous costs coming at unknown costs to build a bridge. It's going to be the only way for the Narrows, a bridge to get to the ferry or move our ferry completely. So this isn't a separate issue. We're all on this one little island. First, COVID called us all to pay attention, and we honor our healthcare workers. I think at the same time, with all of the construction going on the island presently, and hearing of situations with young workers cutting off their fingers, my concern is more for the emergency medical team to get our utmost support, training, facilities. We're going into a time of unknown costs and emergencies. And I think we all need to just step back. And all of this is being fed to us from a microcosm viewpoint, but a lot of us are in a macrocosm just trying to get to our homes. I still can't get up my driveway with all the tree falls. It's a really scary time as a citizen on an island in Maine. I'm not sure I can sustain all of my own assets. And I see at the same time, we have huge assets on the island. I would like to see us do a whole asset mapping. What do we have? What spaces do we already have that could be renovated? And we have a lot of properties on the island that are on very high ground, so we could save 1.4 million in fill. I just feel like we need to do an asset mapping and have a vote about which of our crises are the greatest. Thank you.
Addressing the up island garage. Will this require more equipment, or will we be dividing the equipment that we have now between the two garages?
We'll be dividing the equipment that we have now between the two garages.
Can you elaborate on that? What does that mean? How many vehicles could be up island? How many vehicles could be down? How's that? I don't know.
So the question is, well, how many vehicles will be in the garage up island? There's a space for one fire truck and one ambulance. And my understanding is that a fire truck will be staying there and an ambulance will be moved up there when the weather conditions appeared that it will shut off the Narrows.
So are there two ambulances?
Just one up there. There are currently two ambulances. There are two ambulances now, and they'll have one up island in bad weather, and one will stay down island.
How would you determine though, that it's bad weather? What if you get cut off before?
Brad, you want to answer that?
Everybody hear me okay? Yeah. Keep both ambulances at the station down at the town office, because the likelihood of taking a second call typically comes from the health center itself. So if the ambulance is already on the mainland with a patient, and the health center pages out for a second ambulance, especially if the main provider is gone with us on the first ambulance, we try to keep the other one right there to be able to move quick and have a quick response time. As far as the storms come in, we usually spend 72 hours prior to the storm in emergency management, monitoring the conditions with MEMA and Waldo County Emergency Management. And we talk with, sometimes we talk with CMP. So we come up with a plan, and we did move the ambulance to the north end once this winter. And, Josh and Shay were nice enough to let us put it at the boatyard, which was really appreciated. And, if something had happened, Owen was at the top of the island, and he was ready to respond as a medical provider with that ambulance. So we've always got a plan to back up a plan to back up a plan. It ain't always gonna be pretty, but we'll figure this out.
Hi, I'm Janice Petzel. I live on the north end. Everybody seems to be expressing concerns about getting money to pay for the roads, and I just want to say that the Energy Committee, the Sea Level Rise Committee, and Fred's working with FEMA, there are other pots of money for this kind of thing. So just because we vote to do the health center doesn't mean we aren't going to get the roads fixed too. People are working on this on all different fronts. And so I think there's lots of money that's coming available, like with the Build Back Better bill and the Inflation Reduction Act and all kinds of things. So I don't think we have to think it's either or at this point. I think it's really unfortunate that this particular vote comes before the regular town meeting. I think it's very unfortunate that this vote comes before the regular town meeting. In regards to the infrastructure, I think it's critical for the taxpayer to know exactly what they're voting on, when things are gonna happen. Can somebody talk to, I don't know if you guys have a 5-year plan, 10-year plan, but roads are terrible. Washouts are terrible. Culverts are failing everywhere. I agree that the Up Island Fire Station is a really critical piece, for the entire community. But there are people here struggling. And to take this on right now, right after this reevaluation, I know several people whose taxes have more than doubled. It's getting harder and harder to live here. And this is my family home. I've not lived anywhere else. I don't really want to, but it's getting to the point where myself and my family, we're just not going to be able to do this. So can somebody talk to future plans in regards to the infrastructure? Again, roads in particular are horrific.
Janet, do you want to speak to the road plans? I'm happy to speak to some of the work that the Sea Level Rise Committee is doing on resilience. There is a lot going on. It's a time-consuming process.
Yes, it is. Thank you. I hear you, Julie. I know everybody. I drive the same roads that you do, and Peter is fixing them all the time, and the big trucks going over the roads, of course, don't help. And they never have helped the roads. But we're working on and doing some paving this year. I'm going to be doing some small amounts of paving for the amount of money that we're gonna budget at town meeting. And we have other money, set aside for doing drainage, storm drainage, culverts, replacing culverts as they need to be replaced. And of course, the big issue was East Shore Drive and that, washout of the road, which started so innocently, but it ended up. And then we also need to do Lorena's Cove. That's another one. I have to protect that road from washing away. So unfortunately, those two big things came up, which weren't on my radar.
I can give a little bit more detail. We have, talked with our auditors and plan to use, funds from our fund balance to cover the East Shore Drive, the Lorena's Cove East Shore Drive project. So that is planned for this coming year. I brought my computer, but I didn't fire it up, because I don't have the numbers off the top of my head for exactly, but we, more than doubled the amount of money that we're doing for culvert and ditching work. I believe we had planned for $100,000 in paving for for some small things, and have asked for $200,000 to be set aside, which is not unusual for into our capital reserve, so that we can put money aside year to year so that we can cost effectively bring pavers over to do longer stretches at a time. At the same time, FEMA, yesterday, Fred submitted our FEMA application, so hopefully we will receive significant reimbursement for all of the storm damage that has been done. Yes, a big thank you to Fred and Carrie.
Mostly Fred.
Potentially for tax impact, like $30 or $40 per average taxpayer, or however that went. What is it going to do? Potential tax burden to the taxpayer with all of the projects lined up. That really needs to happen. And not just for this year, but, you know, it would be nice to know what's going on over the next 5 years. So the school is going to be 12+%. So everything has a cost.
Yep, I know that the town is projecting like a 7.9% increase in our annual budget is what we're bringing forward to town meeting this year. 7.9%.
That equate to the same amount of tax increase for next year? How does that work?
So we have not. I stick my foot in my mouth here. The next part of the budget process is to look at the school, the county tax, and the town budget together and develop the mill rate for next year, and that is what will determine what the tax increase will be. We have not looked at that information yet as a select board.
Budget. I don't have the whole budget now. What do you-
Okay, I'm gonna go back to the Up Island Garage one more time. So you said that you're committed to doing all 3 projects, but the nearest bid to the Up Island Garage is $1.5 million is what I heard.
No.
So how do we reconcile that, and how do we know if we vote yes, that there will be a definitive plan in place to do the Up Island Garage?
The latest bid that we got for that project was $950,000. Somewhere in that range. We've put that out to bid 3 times. First time was $1.5 million. I think the next time was $1.25 million, and now it's just under $1 million. And we're gonna take a really hard look and see if there are alternative structures that we can use to put up there pre-made steel buildings. We're gonna look at SIP panels, structurally insulated panels. And we're just gonna make sure that there's nothing in it but that structure and some heat.
Okay, so you're still talking, your latest bid was 2x what you have in the budget, which is what the bond. Is it possible to delay the vote until you have a successful bid so that we know all these projects are gonna move forward in a timeline that's acceptable to our citizens?
It's not possible. We're at a deadline right now. We have to vote on the 27th. Other than that, we'll lose our contractor and we'll have to start all over again.
So what assurance do we get that we will actually get the up island garage?
I couldn't hear you.
I'm sorry. What assurances do we have that we will actually have the up island garage completed?
We are dedicated to all three projects. I just can't say that it's a guarantee that it'll go, but we are dedicated to finding a way to do it.
Yep, so the question is the vote, the special town meeting is here next Wednesday at 6 o'clock. April 24th, Wednesday, April 24th, 6 p.m. And again, the timing for that is because unfortunately the guaranteed maximum price expires on April 27th. So we need the community's input in order to meet that deadline.
A clarification, the current amount that we have put aside for the Up Island Public Safety Garage is $432,000. We have looked at, metal buildings. I don't know if Barry Warren is here, if he wants to comment. He's online. If he raises his hand, we can ask him. He recently did a SIP structure of his own home, and he looked into, the possibility of doing the Up Island Public Safety Garage, using the same panel system that he did. And this is, until you get a firm bid, until you get a firm estimate, you can only go with what the ballpark is that we're being told. But our understanding is it is reasonable from the vantage point of, estimates we've gotten from metal building, from vantage point of estimates from SIP structures, and from the recommendation of the architect and engineers and Ledgewood who are working with us on this process, that we can build an Up Island Public Safety Garage for $432,000 or under. Until we have not been able to go into looking into that until we complete this process. We only got this final guaranteed maximum price 2.5 weeks ago. So we have to go forward and then focus on the Up Island Public Safety Garage. I know these are just words, and you don't know me well enough to know whether you can count on it. But believe me, from the very beginning, having an Up Island Public Safety Garage was absolutely critical in my mind. I'm certainly dedicated to the health center. I'm certainly dedicated to renovating the building, the health center, the municipal building when the health center gets out of it. But I am equally dedicated that we get an Up Island Public Safety Garage. And I think there are other solutions which have been mentioned to me. Jerky store, which probably isn't the best idea, but is an option. And there's several others that have come to mind. We have not had time to really dig in and go after that because we just completed this other process. So I wish you would understand that we're really dedicated to doing this. These are not just words.
Would it be wise at our next meeting, there's so much concern about the Up Island fire station. Could we amend our article from the floor and ask for more money? Let's add $250,000 to the $899. And if we don't need that, whatever that figure turns out to be, it would go back and we wouldn't spend it. Would there be some peace of mind?
You need a microphone.
Just the numbers.
Yeah, I have to see how it's written, and I would have to check with the attorney, because the article's written with those figures and those interest amounts.
I know we've amended articles in the past
To
in town
see
meetings.
what sum versus see what comes raised, there's a difference in how it's worded.
Okay.
So, do you think that would be the case for $250,000 more?
I personally don't. A million here, a million here, a million there. So you're talking real money.
I understand the vote has to happen in time for the bid to be accepted. But what about has anybody discussed the possibility of doing additional fundraising around this project? Because this was intended to be a proportion of what we were going to be floating as a bond. As the amount has increased, why haven't we increased our fundraising targets to go along with that?
That's a good question. I'm not sure I can totally answer it. I'll turn it over to Linda Gillies in just a moment. But I know that we did not want to compete with other organizations on the island that do fundraising. So we wanted to be appropriate. Linda Gillies and her committee did raise $100,000 more than had been originally planned for this project. So they more than outdid themselves. But I will turn it over to her for a comment.
I think Lauren has really answered the question. I think Lauren has answered the question well. The private sector really stretched when we first went to them. It was just marvelous. People, you know, when you're a fundraiser, the operating word is yes. And we got yeses just all over the place, and they raised more than we were asked to. And not competing with other nonprofits on the island, some of whom have very large and important projects, is important. And we didn't want to go that route because we had gone over what we had said we would raise. So I believe we have it right now.
We'll still accept checks, right?
Yes, we will still accept checks.
I'll be in the lobby.
I also want to just point out again that the combination of donations and the grant, we really have more than matched what the community is in terms of the revenues coming from the community in terms of that money. So donations and grant have more than compensated for that. Do you want to clarify that, Jessica? No.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, we were very fortunate to get the grant from Senator Collins, and I really hope we can follow through with that, because it's not just that they gave us that money, it's money that's going to improve the building. It's money that's going to save the taxpayers a lot of money going far into the future. These solar panels are going to save on the order of probably at least $20,000 a year for taxpayers, and that over the course of their lifetime, it's going to be almost, you know, $400,000 to $500,000 that they're going to save. So it's not just that money, but it's like a huge savings into the future, and that's, yeah, what I hope we can do.
I think we're really lucky right now that these things have all come together. The combination of over the top donations, the grant that we're receiving, and the other parts of the project that I think are going forward. So, and thank you, Jessica. Jessica wrote the grant for $830,000.
Well, they came here. I agree with all buildings, but I've also walked into interviews in the buildings with Fred Porter when he's dealing with kids, when he's dealing with other things, and that's not acceptable. They need a better place
to go into so they can talk to people, interview them. If you were a child and you were going in there and talking to someone that's been molesting you, and then someone else walks in, it's gonna shut them down. It will shut the parents down, and that is just not acceptable. He has to do it in a room that has to put signs up to say, please don't come in, I'm interviewing. And if you're short like me and mine happens to be over my head, I don't see it. He has to stick the door, note underneath the door to the health center, so they don't go through to go to the ambulance, because they might need something, or to see if they have that in their box, because they don't have it in the health center at that time. They need room for their training. They need room for where he can have a quiet place to talk to people, whether it's interviewing them, interrogating them, because everybody else in the world don't need to know all that either. So you need to see the whole picture. It's not just the health center. It's not just fire department. It's not just EMS. It's the whole thing. Police, we're leaving that out. Police is a big thing. He needs places to store stuff that he's taken from things. Some things have to be climate controlled. He might need to have someone come in and do blood work on someone, and someone walks in. Oh, yep, that person's in blood. What's going on with them? That's not okay.
My name's Paul Hatch, from Paul Hatch Construction, and, I plow the roads over here, my crew does. The roads are a mess. I had to do it myself because Mike was gone, and I was putting a tire patch up on the hood of my truck. My windshield and my pickup's all scratched to hell. I gotta replace that. It's broke. I've ripped mirrors off my trucks. Something, and I hear Jen say that we're gonna do a little paving. Man, we gotta do a lot of paving. And number two, East Shore Drive. I told you 5 years ago, 6 years ago now, that something had to be done. You sent Matt Craig down, and he said it was fine. If he'd have got out of the truck, gone on the beach, we wouldn't have this problem today. And I've told you about Uranus's Cove. We gotta do something. I was down there yesterday morning with Matt. It's settling. One more storm, we're gonna lose it. It's gonna cost a lot more money. My suggestion is gonna piss a lot of people off here. What we want to build here, and let's fix what's already broke. I've gone to the selectmen's meeting and I've asked you guys, and you said you're gonna talk about it, put it on the agenda. It's time. It's time to do something. Keith Penland almost drove off Uranus's Cove 3 years ago. I asked you to put some fill up, and Peter did. Thank you. The fill's going. We need more, but there ain't room to dump it. My trucks cannot plow where I think someone's gonna get killed. Please do something with these roads. Down around the Inn Road, Mrs. Gillies, right by Stevens, that's a mess. We're digging it up all the time. And as for Ledgewood, I believe Ledgewood built this place, right? But Ledgewood also made a lot of mistakes that other contractors come in to fix at town expense. Why aren't they held liable for their screw-ups? When they dump the feces, the toilets and the sinks into the D-box, we redid the septic system down here 3 times at the town's expense. Am I wrong? No, I bet you don't. That was probably back when Manny was here, but I'm just saying, why aren't these off-island contractors held liable for their screw-ups? If I screwed your septic system up, by God, I'm coming in to fix it. No answer? I got a lot of gripes. I got a guy working for me right now, and his taxes doubled, and he's in a flood zone. He can't afford the insurance, and he can't afford to live here, and he's thinking about leaving. He's gonna put me out of business. He's my right-hand man. I'm ready to go. I've turned my house over to my son. I can walk out that door any day I want. You people gotta wake up. Nothing's free. It's coming out of our tax pockets. Thank you.
Thank you, baby.
Why are we so pressed for time? When did we get these funds that are now have a deadline?
Can you guys speak to the timeline with Ledgewood and the guaranteed maximum price, please?
So in the last few weeks, we finally got the guaranteed maximum price. Put together these information meetings to hear the concerns of the people and try to get things done in time to have a meeting on the 27th. So we, because the timeline for Ledgewood is ticking down, and by the 27th, if we don't have an approval for this money, we're gonna have to start looking for a new contract.
Is this a cost plus or is it a fixed amount?
Fixed
What kind of percentage do they make?
by,
5% off the top? Well, that's net profit?
Can you please just repeat
the question was, how much money is Ledgewood making? They're charging 5% of the construction cost.
It's overhead costs in addition to that?
No,
Can you clarify, please, is the deadline about our potential contractor or about our grants that we would give up?
it's probably about both. It's about the contractor, and if we have to go find another contractor, we're gonna be delayed in getting the grants. I'm not sure.
Yeah, basically, yeah.
What is our grant deadline? Can we let the contractor go so we all have more time to see this and figure out what's going on?
Well, what I would say to that is if we let this contractor go, the price is just gonna go up, you know, the next time we do it because the clock is ticking again. And, you know, that's why this guaranteed maximum price is so important. Yes, the grants are, you know, coming up, so we have to decide whether we're going to accept them or not. But if we don't have a building, we can't use these grants.
Right.
So we need the building now. We, for many, many reasons.
I also just want to clarify, and I feel like I'm hearing the secondhand where you know the details, but this is the second construction company. Is that,
That's correct. We have, well, we started by putting out to bid the Up Island Garage as a general contractor approach, and the bids came back way too high. We decided to go with a construction management firm, and we weren't having a whole lot of luck with our first firm that we went with, and so we moved to Ledgewood. What did you want to know about that?
just clarifying that this is the second construction company that we work with and that we started working with them because of it allowed us to reduce the cost.
Correct. The first construction management firm that we were working with really wasn't interested in doing any value engineering, so we could try to reduce the costs. And the first thing that Ledgewood did when they came in was look at plans and said, let's do it this way, change this, change that. We have gotten some significant decreases in the price just from Ledgewood.
There is a question online about trying to ask for additional information about issues with the school building and the cost. I'm not sure if anyone here has information to be able to answer that question.
effectively right now. I don't know if you want to speak to the conversations and the interviews that you had with Ledgewood, if that's helpful at all.
I spoke with, Pete Volunteer from Ledgewood about the concern about what happened here. He said he would have gladly been here to fix things if he had been told about it. And he said that he's dedicated to sticking with the project after it's complete and make sure that it's running just how we need it to.
Sorry, I have a question from Art through my Facebook post. It was, since we've waited so long to get the guaranteed maximum price from Ledgewood, because according to this previous select board meetings, we were consistently waiting for it. Why are we now being forced to their timeline when they wouldn't abide to ours? And who set the April 27th date?
The building committee asked the selectmen to set that date and the selectmen set it.
No, the
The
deadline.
the subcontractors. Yeah.
Yeah, it is hard to unpack all of it because, we kept trying to find savings and Ledgewood kept working with us to try to find savings. And it just felt like if we could just look a little harder, get a little bit more value engineering, if we could just make a few changes here that would not have any negative impact on the health center or on the Up Island Public Safety Garage, we could get the number low enough, and that was what we were striving for, so we weren't burdening the town and the townspeople with additional funds. And it ended up that two things happened pretty much simultaneously, and that is that we pushed it as far as we could. When Ledgewood works with subcontractors, they end up having a bid and a relationship with Ledgewood, who's the contract manager. They set up a relationship with them. I actually had to talk with the contract manager, Pete Peltier, and have him extend and write a letter to all of the subcontractors saying that we intend to work with you. We just need just a little bit more time. So this is the businessmen here know this, businesswomen here know this. They're on a timeline. Their clock is ticking to hire their people, keep their employees. They have a site supervisor that's not being paid until this contract goes through. So it is unfortunate, but it is the reality that we tried to press to as far as we could to get the price down, and that narrowed the clock. My apologies for us. I mean, I'm sure you appreciate that we wanted to get the price down, but it was that effort really that pushed us to this fine time, this narrow timeline. Not the fault of the Ledgewood and not the fault of people like Pete Anderson, who's worked so hard to try to get this price down. I hope that helped to answer your question.
Just a quick question for you on the bid. What percentage of the work will be subcontracted out to island workers?
Probably none of it. We have tried and tried and tried to get local contractors interested in this job, all three of them, and they have not given us anything.
I just want to add to that, originally, we did not include the Up Island Public Safety Garage in the contract manager system. We kept that out, and Bill Boardman can speak to this, but he took the designs to every single builder on the island personally, gave the designs to them, and asked them to put in a bid. Not one did. And that's not their fault. They were very, very, very busy. But we did make that effort, and we would turn around, and any builder that wanted to work with us, we'd be happy to. You want to say anything?
All right, I don't want to cut off discussion, but is there any other hands? Robert, Bertha, you're next.
For further clarification, wow, I can almost be tongue-tied here while I'm speaking. For further clarification, could we go back to Ledgewood now that we have a feasible timeline? I know Clayton Brothers had brought up during the last meeting that we're 3 years down the line now and trying to kick this can going down, but there was no timeline, there was no feasible date for anything. Could we now talk to Ledgewood about, we want our island contractors and subcontractors and these types of people included in it, knowing that we're going forward now with a more feasible timeline? We don't want our island guys to go out of business because they don't have a timeline. If they would have given you the bid and then they're still waiting on us 3 years later, Mike told us, last week that he would have gone bankrupt. Would it be possible to do that, or can we at least, for the Up Island garage, say that we are going to use our island workforce to the best of our capabilities, not, well, they didn't put in a bid. Now we have a timeline, now we have a price, now we have everything else that we can move forward with in a feasible fashion. Just to make sure that we are making, providing the best possible care and supporting our island workforce.
I believe that all the subcontractors are in place and ready to go once we get to the 27th. We certainly will try again to get local contractors involved in the Up Island garage.
Me again. Could I please have a sand shed down on this end of the island, just in case the Narrows wash it out?
Any last questions? All right, hearing none. I hope that we will see you all here.
Big one?
For the health center. The question is there a large set of blueprints for the health center, perhaps that's at the town office or that could be put at the town office for people to review?
Yeah.
Yes, is the answer. So,
I asked last week if somebody could send me an email of the print, so people were asking, how big is this thing? How big is the room? Maybe you can help me figure out how big this is. So that's what I was wondering. I never got it.
So,
that was 3 years ago, Bill.
okay, so I think the question is basically, how can we make sure that we have information after this meeting and before the town, meeting on Wednesday? I think there are blueprints at the town office that can be reviewed. Is that what I'm hearing?
But I can't send it. I don't have enough.
Okay, you have to go in and then, there were handouts at the last, meeting and,
The ones from the last meeting don't have the scale or the sizes on them that are legend.
gotcha. Okay, just size wise, you need to go, it's helpful to go into the town office so that you can see the information, in any kind of detail.
You must have a digital version.
I do not.
The architect does. Just try to help.
Can we ask, I'm just wondering if we can ask Ledgewood to have an electronic copy, perhaps it's something that we could be posted on our town website to make it easily accessible for people, if it's something that they can get us electronically. Great. Okay, well then with that, thank you all for coming. We hope to see everyone here, same time, same place next Wednesday, the 24th at 6 p.m.